rural areas in northern Nigeria have for over a decade contended with terror attack. And more recently, urban centers, including Federal Capital Territory, have witnessed a sort of invasion in which citizens are being abducted for ransom, even within the confines of their homes. And yet somebody who is supposed to take action is saying this is politically motivated. So even if it is politically motivated, that is why you are a leader, that is why you are in power. You should be able to fish them, punish them, and sanction them. But to make just sweeping statement that is political, what does that mean? You are not taking effort to protect the citizens and the president of Abuja. You are saying it is political, then you just move on with their own way of doing things. We think this is absolutely unacceptable and something drastic must be done. Held by the law enforcement, families are resorting to publicly crowd fund to pay ransom without interference from government. The resistance of government to this trend is an acquiescence to the payment of ransom. We note that some government was quick to freeze the accounts of donors and the recipients of funding for NSAS, but failed to take concrete action to protect citizens against the organized crime. These people, they send you accounts, you send money to them. These people, they use cell phone to call, and nobody bother to take effort to track them, trace them, and deal with them, because there's a conspiracy, there's a connivance. So the Nigerian poor person will have to continue to contend with this situation. We are equally dismayed by the willingness of some political leaders and politically exposed persons to publicly support ransom payment and question their values and alliances. Their action and utterances reflect a lack of faith in the system of which they are guidance, and their nonchalant attitude towards the potential consequences, including directly funding future attacks. We consider that their stance involvement perpetrators and further erode the trust of citizens in their government's capacity. Obtaining the education has become a risky venue for learners, teachers, and parents due to school abduction. You will still recall that some girls are still in local, state, and national level, and young girls of between 15 to 18 are still under captivity. This is heartless, this is unacceptable, this does not show love to our people. Businesses are also suffering from the effects of this state of affairs. Farming communities are losing their resilience against venereal plagues, and traders can no longer apply roads safely. Foreigners no longer feel safe to visit and invest, and far too many resources that could have been invested in businesses are being paid out as ransom and fortifying private security. This is absolutely alarming. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to hand over to my colleague.
I'm responding to the question on the declaration of state of emergency in the security sector, which is one of the demands of the coalition. And somebody had asked what exactly were the nature of this demand. I think we should realize that as a country, we are facing an existential crisis. At the beginning of the text that was read out, you could see where it's written, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. When government abdicates its responsibility in this regard, what else is it, why is it a government? Why is it in place? So it's important. We need to continue to push this agenda. I think it's the most important thing we need now, to declare a state of emergency on insecurity. We need to secure this country. We're talking about foreign investment, people coming here. Even local businesses can't function. People, once it's dark, people have to head home. Even if in daylight they are robbing people, kidnapping people, no longer from the streets, but from their homes. So the economy is in crisis. Social engagement, we're having problems in every sphere of life because people feel once the security of citizens is threatened, nobody wants to go out, nobody wants to do anything. So coming directly to the question of what needs to be done, I think the important thing is that we need the president to call together whether they call it the security apparatus in the nation, the service chief, those responsible, and tell the nation exactly what they are doing and what they want to do. When you talk about state of emergency, the president needs to address the country to realize the enormity of the current crisis and to say, yes, we realize this, we accept and understand the depth of the crisis. We don't know how much understanding goes into the security situation in the country today. Whether it's, you look at Abuja, I see some people who served in the former government are complaining that street lights, for 8 years, a lot of us were making noise at the fact that something as simple as street lights in Abuja, half of the city is in darkness, and we're talking about fighting insecurity. So the government needs to have a holistic approach, but the president needs to, as a matter of urgency, to address the nation and say, this and this and these are the things we want to do, and in the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, we expect the situation to change, and then we hold them on to that. Thank you very much.
And what needs to be done, but also we had a voice to other things. So the very first thing is that if you go through the text of our statement that we just read out, we actually identified the role of corruption. We are very clear. In fact, in one of our demands, we linked corruption with the state, the parlor state of the economy right now, as being factors that are exacerbating, the question of insecurity. And corruption in several ways. So the corruption that goes into, that occurs in the provision of services that is no longer then there, or in improving the economy to create jobs, and then the money is, finds its way into individual pockets, and so people become unemployable, and angry. The corruption that goes into the education sector, where they are no longer, our youths are no longer getting functional and life, education. But also directly the corruption in the security sector itself, where huge sums of money are budgeted and allocated for equipment and for resources, and these simply find their way into private pockets. So we recognize that, and that's why we are saying that, look, the question of fighting corruption should be defined. You don't just fight corruption. You should say where, in which instance, in which places you are fighting corruption, and what you are going to do. And if you look at all of our demands, they are all interlinked. There's absolutely no way you are going to fight corruption in this sense. Deal with the question of the parallel states of the economy the way we have presented it, that it does not dovetail into the question of a state of emergency. Because what we are saying with the state of emergency is very clear. We are saying that this is an urgent situation. Recognize that it is urgent. Allocate a timeline within which you will resolve this problem, or at least roll back insecurity. So there should be a timeline. Clear, concrete. 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Certainly, we should begin to see some results in 6 months. So at the very minimum, 6 months. And then what that also means is that it should not be business. You can't declare a state of emergency and it's business as usual, because then it's not a state of emergency. We declared the state of emergency of food insecurity at the beginning of this administration. We have not changed our approach to why people are food insecure. So you cannot do that. So that's what we mean by saying, food insecurity. And so for us, we are clear about this. We are clear that when you declare this state of emergency, it should include how you are going to tackle all of these things. There are equipment that are there, that have been bought actually, but have not been used. And nobody intended to use them. They were bought because some people got some money and commission on top of it, and so on and so forth. And so these are the things and that's why we said we want an audit of all of these things within that context, so that we know where are we at right now. Where are the gaps? Are the gaps that we don't have equipment, or that we are not utilizing what we have, or that. So, but we need to have an assessment, and it should be part of what you do during that state of emergency period.
If you have read this very well, you could see that what this World Press statement tried to say is that what we are having is a problem that needs a collective solution. The government needs to provide the leadership. We are not saying that it's the government alone, but the government needs to provide this leadership where the state institutions, the political class, the civil society, including those of us here, including the business class, including the religious group, including the media, need to work. And that's what we're asking for. Most times people think that when things happen, we just say it's a problem of the government. No, it's a problem of the state, because the government is just a big brother that is leading the siblings to solve a problem. So what we're saying, government needs to provide that leadership. So when you think about that leadership, during the last election, all the political parties promised that if they are elected into government, that they will remove the security vote that is unconstitutional. But till date, it's still there. None of the political parties are talking about it. So, and if you listen very well, during the election, the civil society groups kept asking, will this stay or will it go? And they said it will go. If the subsidy had gone, so why is this one stay there? Because if you look at it frontally, you will ask yourself, what is the essence of the security vote? What has it been doing? There has been researches that have shown that even some people fuel conflict in order to continue to give an account of how they use the money. And because it's unaccounted for, people don't even have any way to see how it is used. So what we are saying, or most of the people who have gone through to understand the issue of the security vote, is that, so what's the essence? What is the essence if you are using security? Some of them are saying they are using the security vote to support the police. Okay, so does it mean that if we are now asking that the federal police is not providing all that it should provide, that we can't have another form of policing? There have been instances where people have adjudicated or have asked for other kinds of multiple policing. We've come back to say, no, it can't work. It has this, it has that. But the argument has remained, have we really sat down to argue for and against it and work out measures that if we decide to say that this is what we want, we'll find a way to make sure that people don't hijack it. You don't run away from a crisis and say that, no, because you don't want to get into it, you know, because of that, that's the way it's going to remain. If multiple policing will solve our problem, we should debate it and then find a solution that we are going to put in place to make sure that none of the state governments can hijack it. So I think that is important. And part of what this was trying to say is that if government is providing that leadership, it means that the political elite and the political class, no matter which part of the divide they are in, have to come in. If you're following what is happening in the US today, they have a border crisis. They are already discussing, even though it's becoming a political issue. You could see that the two political parties are debating on what do we do. So I think the political elite, led by the government needs to provide that enabling leadership to start talking about the insecurity in the country. And like what my colleagues have said, people are abandoning the state. People are abandoning the government. It's like, to your tent, O Israel.
To communicate to whoever is concerned the need to urgently take action to save lives and properties in this country. There's no way anybody is going to come and invest when the country is in this state of insecurity. So it is absolutely necessary to find a way to deal with this insecurity, because Nigerians are already experiencing double insecurity, poverty and insecurity. These two are combined together and they are killing Nigerians. On top of it is corruption. I read the statement. Civil society organizations in Nigeria under the auspices of civil society joint action groups, community of practice against mass atrocities, and the Nigeria mourns are deeply concerned by the deteriorating state of security across Nigeria and its federal capital territory, Abuja, and therefore call on the Nigerian government to take actionable steps to end endemic insecurity, mitigate further attacks by kidnap syndicates and terrorist groups, and account persons missing in these attacks. Over the past decade and a half, insecurity in Nigeria has spirated due to a variety of violence phenomena, including but not limited to terrorist activities in the entire northern region of the country. Torrent flight, otherwise known as banditry in the northwest, farmers' header violence in the middle belt, including the Benue Valley, secessionist struggle in the southeast, piracy in the southern coast of the country, intercommunal attack, political violence, cult gang violence, and kidnapping. These forms of insecurity have jeopardized the security and well-being of Nigerians and have progressively deteriorated over years. Across country by Nigeria mourns revealed that in President Muhammadu Buhari's second term alone, between 2029 and 2023, at least 24,816 Nigerians lost their lives, and at least 15,597 persons were abducted. This is a huge figure that should actually scare any country. In other countries, even if it is 1% of this figure got lost of their life, they would rise up to do something. But in our country, it's normal. It has become normal to hear this number of people dying, missing, attack, and no action is taken. It's like it's an acceptable way of life, because since Nigerians' life doesn't matter, so they continue to ignore and they did not take necessary action to prevent it by, of course, falling corruption in the security sector, because at the heart of all this is because of the corruption in the security sector, because of the resources that some people are taking from the security sector. That is why you see they are not bothered to take decisive action to block or to stop or to track these criminals. In these modern days where you have gadgets, where with their phone you will be able to navigate to know where a terrorist or where a bandit is, who is negotiating for ransom. You can be able to track him and get him down. But the authority appears not to be interested to do that, because they have a rented protection. Because once they have a rented protection, the rest of the Nigerians' life doesn't matter. This is very sad. This alarming trend has continued in spite of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's assurance at the beginning of his presidency in May 2023 to tackle insecurity. It has now been 8 months since President Tinubu took his oath of office, and yet things have failed to improve. Our tracking shows that at least 2,423 people have been killed in mass atrocities-related incidents, and at least 1,872 persons were abducted since the beginning of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration until January 2024. We are particularly concerned about the continued abduction, noting that at least 230 incidents, in most of which multiple victims were involved, occurred within the first 2 weeks of January 2024 alone. Several communities across the country, including Federal Capital Territory, the seat of government itself, are under siege, with the entire families and some cases, communities taken hostage. Residents are being forced due to the repeated attacks by terrorists, kidnappers, and other organized criminal groups. Kidnapping for ransom demand has become a disturbing norm without appropriate response from the authorities. For instance, this week, 30 villagers were abducted in an attack on Tasha Negula village of Basari local government area of Katsina State. This comes on the heels of the abduction of 23 people in the government area of Katsina. This comes on the heel of the abduction of 23 people in Kau community in Bari area council of the Federal Capital Territory on 11 January Similarly, 50 people, including 36 women, were abducted in an attack on Magizawa community in Kaura.
Grandfather at Habar Kingdom. I'm the director of the Kuka Center. First of all, I really want to thank the action group itself for putting together the data. Our country is not a country that policy decisions are taken on the basis of facts and data. It's more about sentiments, ethnic or political affiliation. Yeah. So really, in the midst of this violence and conflict, for you to keep documenting the data, giving names to people who have died, I think it's something that is very courageous, and we must really admit that and thank you sincerely. My job is to answer I don't know whether it was a question on the issue of vigilantes and independent security outfits. I totally agree with the stakeholders from northern Nigeria in their recent conference. These groups are really, really increasing. I come from southern Adama, precisely in Ganye local government. Every month, I get a letter from my local government asking me to contribute to security for my village chief, for example. Because at a point, they are not only using vigilantes, they are not only using independent security outfits, they are even using hunters to protect their community. And the question is, if ordinary citizens in villages and these local places have become vulnerable, naked, and exposed, what are you expecting them to do? I think one of the things they have done is to create this independent security outfit. And people are making machetes and knives using their own blacksmiths. You know, in the villages, they are making local guns, and it's very normal. But this is only one way that they are responding. They say the second way is, if you cannot fight them, join them. A lot of young people are also joining these groups, either kidnapping and banditry and doing other things that are necessary. But the third aspect, in the way and manner they are responding, is people are running to IDP camps. I was in Borno, for example. You find someone coming to an IDP camp, running from his own, violence in his village, comes to IDP camp with just a wife or no wife. But because there's relief material, there's foodstuff by the federal government, after 6 months, he ends up with 4 wives. 1 wife in each IDP camp. And within this IDP camp, children are born, children are registered, they are becoming independent communities, they are becoming recruitment hubs. They are not even willing to go back. They are very contented. Women are raped, people are abused. So all that is happening is we are cooking other perpetrators for the future. And I think that the northern elders are completely right, and we are really calling on the government, and not just the issue of insecurity, but what will even happen to local communities for the future. So I'll stop here and thank you.
Hola. Hola, papá. Hola.